So, what is the core driving force behind conservatism, and in particular, economic conservatism? Where is this coming from? You know, so I'm someone who's spent quite a bit of time inside conservative circles. I've been a conservative, and I know in a way how the conservative mind works, and you know, you've seen behind the curtain. And I'm going to tell you, the vast majority of it has nothing to do with racism or sexism. That's a small fringe. Honestly, most of your conservatives, that's not their issue. Now, this is my opinion, but I feel like what it comes down to is starts with everybody's image of self worth and the concept of winning. Winning at anything, winning a game, winning a race, winning at anything. And when you win, what does that tell everybody? What's the message? Well, the message is that I'm the best at this. I am better than everybody else who played because I came out on top. And I think most people like to feel like if they're not on the top, they're certainly on the way there, and that one day they will get there. But the vast majority of people are not there yet, and also the vast majority will never really get there. But uh, it's that hope that drives people, really. Hope and conceptions of what could be are actually can be a very dangerous thing. People ask all the time. You see this on circles all the time. People on the left, they just don't understand what makes conservatives vote for the interests of the wealthy and powerful when they themselves are not wealthy and powerful, and the vast majority of them will never be wealthy or powerful. What gives? What's going on here? And this is how it goes from your trailer park natural ice drinking conservative to the Koch brothers. It begins with and is sustained by a person's need to feel special, or you could say successful. It's a person's need to believe that they have achieved something. They are, they've gotten pretty far and they're still on the way to getting even bigger. Not too many people want to sit around and, think of themselves, I've been a failure, or, you know, this trailer is the most I'm ever going to have in life. I'll never get to have anything nicer. Um, People don't really want to feel that way. They want to think this is just a stepping stone. I'm on the way up. I am going to really be something, like Ayn Rand used to say when people would say, "Well, you're amazing," and she's like, "Yes, I am." So, how does a lower middle class American, how do they uh, feel successful? How do they feel special, when they are so far from anything that could even remotely be considered, wealthy? You're working, you're making maybe 40,000 a year, got credit cards you can barely pay off, hard can't even really afford a vacation. What gives? Why are they voting to support the interests of the wealthy? And this is where the rabid hatred of the welfare state comes in, the rabid hatred of government assistance. And that's that a socialized system or something that's provided to everybody does not give any one person any reason to feel special. It's not an aspect of their life that they get because they're worthy, they're meritorious, and other people who don't get that are just not as productive, not as smart, not as hardworking as they are. For instance, somebody who is, you know, making 300,000 a year can pick up the phone anytime, day or night, when they're having an emergency and call the police department or the fire department, and a government employee will respond to their location to provide emergency help if needed. But actually, so can the guy who is unemployed sleeping in a dumpster. If he needs help, he can pick up the same phone and call, and the government services will respond to that emergency. Then switch over to something like healthcare. The driving force behind this is that for them to be able to use that to feel like it's an accomplishment for them, there has to be a denial for some people who are just shut out of care because they can't afford it or a corporation does not deem it's in their best interest to provide that person with health care. You see me, oh, I have a job and my company knows that I am worthy of them spending money to pay for an insurance plan so that I can go to the doctor when needed. When I am sick, I can pick up the phone, call the doctor, make an appointment, and I can go down and a doctor will provide me with medical care because I am worthy. I deserve it. I am worthy of this care. Now, them, no, they don't deserve it. They can't afford it. Company doesn't think they're worth it, so they're not. For housing, they say, I am accomplished. Look at me. I can afford a place to live. There are lots of people out there who can't. And therefore, I am doing better. I am superior, because this is something that I'm able to get from the market economy. And those people over there, they're just not as smart as me. They don't work as hard as me. And therefore, they are denied that. And you could say, well, how does that work for the conservative who's in the trailer? Because, certainly it doesn't work for, the millionaire who has a 25-room house with, you know, nice big property in a nice gated community. Certainly he can look and say, um, yes, I've made it. This is my house. I own this. I deserve it. Other people don't get to have a house like this, but I do because I am me and I am successful. And it works all the way down the line because even the trailer conservative can say, this is my trailer. It may not be the best right now, but I'm still on the way up. But there are those out there who have way less than this. So therefore, I am on the way up. I am superior to those people. I deserve a warm bed to sleep in at night, and that's what I get. The other people, they don't deserve it. They don't work as hard. They're not as smart as me. They didn't have, you know, parents that left them a lot of money, whatever. They're drug addicts. They're prostitutes. They suck. Now, there have been studies put out, and these studies they show that um, in many cases, taking homeless people off the street and putting them in a very 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 basic apartment, nothing lavish, nothing just a very basic efficiency is that would actually be cheaper than leaving them on the street and having to deal with all the social problems that causes. But it doesn't matter. It can't get done. It won't get done. Doesn't matter if it would save money. Why? Because it would upset those lower lower rung conservatives who, you know, feel like they work hard for their trailer and you can't give somebody else a room, you know, because then it diminishes their self-worth, their achievements. Now that's one thing they can't feel, good about. So yes, it's really at its core, it's about the knowing that yes, there are tons of needs and wants out there, and because I'm special, I am hardworking or smart or come from a good family, therefore the market economy gives me all these things, and that's because I deserve it. And that only really works if there are people who are deprived of these things, even basic essentials. So if you remember a few years ago when the fight for 15 was just starting to gain traction, there was a study done where they did an analysis of McDonald's and they said, okay, and this is what they've always done, economic conservatives fearmonger over the minimum wage because they say, oh, well, you go to McDonald's and a Big Mac will cost you $14. Well, no. If I recall correctly, they said that to get everybody to at least $15 an hour would amount to less than a 20% price hike. 20%, because the vast majority of their expenditures are related to advertising and, other property type expenses, not necessarily worker pay. So get everyone to a minimum of 15, about a 15 to 20% price hike it would require. So your Big Mac meal doesn't go from 6.50 to $18. It goes to a little under $8. Not a big difference. And for that modest increase, you would get the satisfaction of knowing that the people who are serving you the food can actually afford a decent place to live and to feed, clothe, house, and care for their children. But it violates the conservative mindset because if those people get to earn enough to feed, clothe, house, and care for their children and have a safe place to live, well, I have those things. They have those things too. I'm not really better off than they are. Therefore, I am not successful. I am not on top. I'm just a regular person like everybody else. So it doesn't matter that the price increase would be nominal. Not a factor at all. It's the deprivation that is the goal here. Keeping these people down so that, other people can feel superior to them. And if you look at the policies and the things that the right advocates from this mindset, everything falls into place. It all makes sense. So if you look at just about any right wing economic policy, you can see this go straight to who is being deprived of something or who is something being taken away or whose needs are not being met. That's going to be a core element. And this kind of mindset, this way of thinking, it morphs and you see it in all areas basically. And you see it in the way the economic right talks about healthcare. Yes, having an uninsured population is important to them. They desperately want that because then all you have to do is have some type of medical insurance and then you have more than them. You can feel better than they do. And you see the terror in them when they discuss this issue because almost always first thing when they go to healthcare, almost the first thing they start talking about is rationing, waiting lines. Oh, in countries with socialized medicine, you know, the the wait time is longer than it is here. You see? So why is that? Well, I think almost everybody's been to an amusement park before. Um, if it's a crowded day there, you're probably going to spend half your day waiting in lines, for the major attractions, the major rides. So, each ride you might have a, 20, 30, 45-minute wait, sometimes even longer if it's a real crowded day. Now, the economic right wing approach to this would be, well, hey, let's come here, let's gather around. Okay, so let's take one out of every four people in the park, throw them out of the park, and then the rest of us who stay will have shorter lines. Instead of waiting half an hour, you may wait 15 to 20 minutes. We will wait less because a lot of people are just kicked out of the park. So we only have these shorter waiting times in other countries because there are people who would potentially need services, but they're not getting those services because um, they don't have access, they're uninsured, you know, or for whatever reason, they aren't there. And yes, when you take millions of people who have been uninsured for many of them for long, long amounts of time, when you first bring them into the system, they're going to have quite a few problems that need to be addressed. So, those first few years, we saw this when Canada did it. Those first few years were quite rough getting all these uninsured people who had been uninsured into the system, treating them, you know, it's a definitely a process. So the right wing mentality, the conservative economic mentality, that is to say, well, I mean, hey, I don't want to wait in lines. Do you want to wait in lines? So why would we want to bring these all these people into the system, even if it would save money, even if? Because I am a very important person. I am important. I go to my doctor and I have an issue. He wants to send me for an MRI. I pick up the phone, I make an appointment. Week later, I'm in there. If it was going to be well, based on severity of conditions, we have some people ahead of you who have some really bad conditions. You're maybe moderate, so might be a couple weeks to wait, but we'll get you in. Then they are not really special. They're not the priority. There's other people who are not as deserving of them, but still getting care before they are. This is like um, doctors in the emergency room dealing with somebody who's, having a heart attack or is suffering from a, gunshot wound, and you walking in there with you know, a toothache, and they abandon that person with the bullet wound and go over to make sure you're okay, you're comfortable, because you are so much more important than that person over there. So when you talk to them about the costs of the system, and you know even if you can show that switching to a single payer type solution would be much cheaper in the long run, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that our system costs a lot of money, because our system grants them things that other people are not granted. So everything else really doesn't matter. And you look at the apologetics from the right on this healthcare especially, and it's pretty bonkers. You listen to Steven Crowder, and I've heard him, talk when he's talking healthcare. They always say, oh well, you know, our system is better, so therefore it's going to cost more. And you can debate, whether something's better or not is subjective, but you can look at different aspects of healthcare, and certain statistics, ours does do better than in certain other countries, but in no area of life, in no area do we completely divorce cost from quality. All the choices we make economically have to factor both cost of something and the quality. Yes, we're generally willing to pay more for something we deem better. So I'm going to say, let's say, you're going into a bar with your buddies, and they're ordering their beers, Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors, whatever, Budweiser, um, and you order an import. Say you're a Heineken drinker or you Corona, whatever, and they're getting their prices, and it's like $5-6 a beer or whatever. Then they tell you that, oh, it's your Heineken, it's going to be $500, and you say, what? Yeah, imports are that, $500 a beer. Now you're going to say, well, it's my beer, and I do think it's better. I do like it better than the domestics, so I'm just going to have to pay it because it's more. It's better for me. It's what I like. And that's a ridiculous way to look at things. Nobody would do that. Say, well, I mean, normally I go for Heineken, but in this case, I'm going to switch to the Bud because I'm not going to pay that crazy price for something that, is better. I like it better, but I don't like it that much better. So that's my theory on social, oh, sorry, economic conservatism. If you look at every stance, every issue, everything, you will find somewhere in there some group of people being denied something that other people get, which allows any fiscal conservative or person who holds to that philosophy to then feel superior to those who are being denied that need. Thank you.